What's going on, 12s? Welcome back to another Seahawks YouTube video. So I haven't done a Seahawks YouTube video in like 4 months or something. But I'm going to start doing more of them because the season's coming around. July will probably be a dead month, but But still, I'm going to start doing more Seahawks YouTube videos. But in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the Seahawks 2021 offseason because it's basically coming to an end. We had the draft. Obviously, there's training camp still left in preseason. But for the most part, free agency was over. The draft was over. All that chaos is basically over. Maybe a couple more signings. But yeah, so it's just reviewing the Seahawks 2021 offseason. Obviously, the Seahawks went into this one with a lot of positional needs. They had very little cap space to fix their problems. However, I feel like they did a decent job. They had to fix key needs like the offensive line. They had to build a better one for Russ because he was frustrated. They had to find their number one running back because we didn't know if Chris Carson was coming back or not. They needed a better defensive line because that defensive line was horrendous last season. And they needed to find a cornerback to go along with DJ Reed. So I wanted to highlight some significant hires and events that happened this offseason. The first one, it was a very, very surprising move. Or not surprising, but Pete Carroll has said that he's not going to change anything. And then the very next day he goes out and he fires his offensive coordinator, Brian Schottenheimer. They said it was because of philosophical differences. I'm not sure, but yeah, okay, I'll be honest, I like the firing. I didn't think it was working out. They needed to bring someone else in. And then Shane Waldron was hired. The Rams passing game coordinator was hired to replace Brian Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator. I like this hire. He seems like a young-minded offensive coordinator. This is going to be his first gig as an offensive coordinator. But he seems to have the experience, and he's under Sean McVay, who has been proven to be a good offensive coordinator. So I'm excited to see what he can bring to Seattle. And then the major bombshell of the offseason, Russell Wilson was frustrated. We had trade rumors. Russell Wilson apparently asked to go to blah, 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 blah. It ended up not happening, thank God. And the rumor was debunked. Russell Wilson is reportedly pretty happy in Seattle. So there we go. We got our quarterback. So that's secured. I wasn't expecting to deal with that this offseason, but we had to deal with it, unfortunately. And then, as every offseason happens, you always get departures. You just can't bring everything else unless you're like the 2021 Bucks, who brought everyone back surprisingly and added to their success. But anyways, Seahawks-wise, the departures include Carlos Hyde, running back to the Jaguars, major blow. Shaquille Griffin, this one sucked. I really wanted to see him come back, but he ended up going to the Jaguars. David Moore, our number 3 wide receiver, I kind of expected this to happen. He went to the Panthers. Jacob Hollister was hoping for him to return. He ended up going to the Bills. Jaron Reed, that sucks for the defensive line. He went to the Chiefs. And then Quentin Dunbar, another cornerback. Both of our starting cornerbacks last year left. So Quentin Dunbar went to the Lions. They are not going to be a good team this year. That's what I'm just going to say. So the Seahawks took some blows when it came to all their positional needs because of some departures that were unfortunate. So that opened up a couple positions that needed some fixes. The most important one was Russell Wilson's offensive line. He was frustrated apparently with it. And then the Seahawks, every single position needed an upgrade, it looked like. Center, they didn't really get an upgrade. They re-signed Ethan Posick. And let me tell you, Ethan Posick is not the absolute worst center they could have done. It could have been a lot worse. He's mediocre. Yeah, they could have went out and signed like an Austin Ryder, Corey Lindsey, but that would have been a hell of a money. And I don't think the Seahawks had that. So they saved money, re-signed Ethan Posick, who's decent. I like that move. Guard-wise, that was a bad position for the Seahawks last year. Mike Upati retired, so they trade for Gabe Jackson from the Raiders. I like this trade. I didn't think they gave up a whole household for him. They gave up a pretty decent amount, and we're getting a quality offensive lineman to fix our guard position. So I like that as well. Tackle, they trade up in the draft, in the 7th round and draft Stone Forsythe out of Florida. And this guy, he's big. I watched some film on him. He seems like a good pass blocker, and Honestly, this guy reminds me of a guy like Andrew Whitworth. He's big. He seems like a good blocker. I think he'll do well in Seattle. So that's a good pickup for the Seahawks. And Pete Carroll seems to be really high on this kid. So I hope he succeeds because we need him to. Because this offensive line better play better than they did last year. Moving on, running back. We needed to secure a running back this offseason. That was a big question mark. They did it. They re-signed Chris Carson. I don't know how. Surprisingly, they did. I did not see this signing coming together at all. But 3-year, $24.6 million. You can't not be happy with this contract. It is a beautifully made contract by John Schneider. Chris Carson probably got a little less than what he was hoping for, but the Seahawks got a great deal for Chris Carson. So I love this move. And Chris Carson's a great running back. They re-signed Alex Collins too. I guess he was productive when he was in last year. He might not be the guy. He might be maybe a backup. But you know what? I liked him when he was with us. In the past, he was pretty productive. And I still believe that Alex Collins is a good running back. Yeah, he had some slumps in the past couple years. But you know what? Who knows? Alex Collins might be our number 2 because I don't like Rashad Penny. I didn't like the draft pick when it happened, and I definitely don't like it now. Rashad Penny is definitely looking like a bust to me. So another need for the Seahawks coming into this offseason was definitely fixing that defensive line that played horrible last year. It was a big need for them coming in here, and I think they did a great job. They added strength, and then they added depth to their defensive line. At defensive end, they signed Aldon Smith from the Cowboys. He's a great defensive end. Kerry Hyder Jr., who stepped in for Nick Bosa last year when he was injured, surprised everyone and played amazing. So the Seahawks brought him in. That's another great pickup for them. Re-signing Carlos Dunlap. That was a great move. After releasing him, Carlos Dunlap was very effective for the Seahawks last year, especially in the 8 games that he played for them. And then they re-signed Benson Mayo. May not be a starting defensive end, but good for depth. And over at the defensive tackle spot, after losing Jaron Reed, they re-signed Al Woods, and then they RFA'd Poona Ford. 2 good moves, in my opinion. After losing Quinn Dunbar and Shaquille Griffin, the number 2 spot for the Seahawks at cornerback was definitely a big need. They already had DJ Reed, who actually played really good last year, so that was already one cornerback locked up, but they needed their number 2 guy. And there was talks of signing Richard Sherman. That did not happen. I think that was the best move, though. That was the best for the team because Richard Sherman, he's old. Yeah, he's probably not going to play like he did back in 2013, 2014. And honestly, they really didn't need him. They signed Ahkello Witherspoon, another 49er. When healthy, this guy can be an amazing cornerback. He can be dangerous. He can be effective. So I'm hoping Ahkello Witherspoon stays healthy because that's when he really thrives and shows everyone what a great cornerback he is. Another cornerback they brought in, or they drafted, was Trey Brown out of Oklahoma. Good press coverage, great on special teams. I feel like this kid has a bright future with the Seahawks, and the coaching staff is pretty high on him, so I'm excited to see what he can do. And I have to say, there are rumors of trading for Stephon Gilmore, Xavier Howard. The trade package for that will have to be a lot for the Seahawks, so might not happen, but just something to keep in mind. And lastly, at the wide receiver position, after losing David Moore to the Panthers, they definitely needed their number 3 guy. There was talks of Freddie Swain moving into the number 3. He probably could have played it, but I wasn't satisfied with Freddie Swain as our number 3 receiver. They could have signed Golden Tate. They could have signed plenty of receivers, but they decided not to. They drafted, actually, a receiver, Dwayne Eskridge, who is an absolute freak when it comes to the 40-yard dash, running a 4.4. He has great hands, too, so it looks like a DK Metcalf 2.0 to me. So I'm excited to see this kid. Another wide receiver, UDFA, Cade Johnson. Every NFL team seemed to want him. The Seahawks got him. That was a great signing. I was surprised they were able to sign him because almost every NFL team really wanted him. He's a hot talent, great steal for the Seahawks. Nice move by the Seahawks front office to get Cade Johnson. And to wrap up, the Seahawks offseason, I feel, in my opinion, is probably one of the most successful they had in a while. They were able to fill good key positional needs with quality talent and players. They didn't just like bring in a cheap player to fill the spot. They actually brought in quality talent. I'm excited for this team that coming up this year. They have a lot of talent. Definitely can be a Super Bowl contending team with Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, all those weapons on offense. And this defense seems to be getting stronger. So this looks like a pretty good, well-rounded team. Obviously, it's not perfect. No NFL team is perfect besides the Bucks, probably. But I'm pretty happy with the Seahawks offense off-season right now. For the limited cap space they had, they did pretty great. If I was to grade it, I'd give it like an A minus because obviously it wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst, but it's definitely a good one of the better ones. And that's going to be it for this video, reviewing the Seahawks 2021 offseason. Check out my podcast, Hawks Talk, on Spotify or just on YouTube. Follow my Instagram at Hawks Talk AP and follow my Twitter. All links are going to be down below. And I'll see you in the next video. And as always, go Hawks!